All right, I'm here with live streamer Boq Percision. How you doing, man?
What's up, Grady?
Boq is a guy that I met. I think you were kind of covering the Elisa Jordana Jimmy thing
Correct.
when I was back in the day. And I started watching your show, and I saw that it's mainly about politics, and I would say it's more on the conspiratorial side.
You might, yeah, I would say more conspiratorial rather than politics. Using politics to understand conspiracies.
Okay, so whereabouts are you from originally?
Okay, well, I was born in Saudi Arabia. My family is Somali. Well, my dad is Somali. My mom is Kenyan, but of Somali uh, ethnic background.
Hmm.
They married in Saudi Arabia. I was basically in Saudi Arabia until I was maybe 3, and then I went back to Africa. When I was in Africa, let's just say things kind of shit hit the fan.
Were you in
So
Somalia at the time? Around like the Black Hawk Down kind of period,
uh,
or a little bit
yeah,
before?
the prelude to the American intervention and all
Mm.
that. This is I was there for the things that led up to the Americans coming. By that time, I was already in Canada. I was
Did they have all the Somali pirates and stuff back then going on?
no, no. Uh, um, they didn't even really have much of fishing industry back in the 90s. No. Uh,
Well, no, what it is these, it's basically about a shipping lane, right?
well,
Basically, there's international businesses using Somali waters, or at least they claim it should be Somali waters.
there's
And
two
these
issues.
these people, I mean, the amount of money they pay to other countries to pass their fucking countries is crazy. We're talking like hundreds of millions of fucking dollars. So
Yeah. Well,
Somalia's like, fuck you guys, man. You know, I think somebody else might be claiming that area. Somebody
well,
else might be getting paid, or they don't even give a fuck about Somali. They just coming right through anyway. So these guys, they go out and they kind of try to get some money off of these guys, which I don't really think like they're bad people for that. You know what I mean?
a
They
lot of
should
it
be
was
getting treated like any other
opportunist.
country.
Yeah, a lot of it was opportunists because they took advantage of the failed state status. There wasn't really a back channel to communicate with like a Somali um, like naval defense person. So
Yeah.
these guys have their own ships. What they did was obviously I don't think it was organic. They definitely got the GPS and everything from some power nexus. But what you were saying earlier, Somalia is on like it's like on a shipping lane. It's kind of um, you might say an exit route on a very strategic shipping lane that gets used a lot. It's
Hmm.
always used. So there's always ships going through that Red Sea, Gulf of Aden location. So these guys basically said, if we're not, it's the same logic the Barbary pirates used back in the day, two centuries ago. They
Yeah.
said, hey, this is technically our waters, so you should be paying us customs
Hmm.
how come we're not getting a cut? And for a time, Lloyd's of London, the shipping insurance guys, they said, you know what, it's not worth the hassle. Just pay off the ransom, whatever the hostage.
Hmm.
It was usually the insurance who was paying the ransom. But 2012, the U.S. Navy got involved and it said, no more. We're not going to negotiate with these guys. We're just going to start, shooting at them. And then the pirates escalated, and now there's kind of like a governmental body, people bribing the Somali officials there, and they're basically bribing those guys, giving them, naval jobs telling them they're part of a Somali Coast Guard, kind of keeping them busy so that they don't,
Right.
uh, start looking for yachts like they were a decade ago. But the original trigger, I think, was from overseas. Like these guys, they didn't. I don't think they didn't. They had the technological tools to like coordinate and then hijack the ships. I think it was something to sabotage shipping,
Mm.
make it difficult, make trade difficult, using the Somali pirates. And in 2023, the Somali pirates are dormant. They're using the Yemeni Houthis. I don't know if you've heard, but in Yemen, they're doing the same thing, but on a larger scale. They're actually uh, using helicopters to hijack ships now in the same area.
Well, I mean, look, they're paying other countries to pass by. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
not like
Yeah.
that's unheard of. And then, but there's some countries that are like, I think they just take advantage of the fact that, what are you going to fucking do about it? You know what I mean? Just like you said, we just shoot at them now.
Yeah. Now
Can you
basically,
imagine that? It's a fucking ship with like what? Like knickknacks from China or something coming by.
yeah, and there's armed guards on the ship.
Yeah, and there's Somalis coming towards the ship and they just shoot them.
Yeah.
And I guess they just fall off into the water and they just go about their day like they just killed a fucking roach or something. You know what I mean?
Those the fortunate ones actually, instead of having like security mercenary shoot at them, they have naval forces from foreign bodies like Iran. I've even heard of Somali
Right.
pilots getting arrested by the Korean Navy, and now they're like locked up in Korea.
Oh
So,
yeah, I hear there's a lot of Eastern Europeans in North Korea.
oh
Have you
yeah,
heard that? Yeah,
um,
they're being used as slave labor.
oh yeah,
I've seen evidence of that too. It's out there.
they have the gulag mindset. The Russians, the Koreans, the Chinese. If you get arrested over there, they're using you for slave labor. 100%. I knew a guy from a Discord. This is from that community I had a falling out with, but he was in a Chinese prison. He was just a regular white guy, American guy. I forgot what he was convicted for, but he had to do time in a Chinese prison. And I'm telling you, it's not a joke. And if you're a prisoner in China or one of these like crappy places where they treat you crappy in prison, it's preferable you have an American passport because I've heard of Canadians, like the Canadian embassy doesn't do squat. It doesn't visit them. It doesn't like advocate for them. But like the American embassy, it will get some resources for its prisoners overseas. They'll get somebody to see them, and you know, so at least it's not a guarantee, but the best passport to have is an American if you're locked up in a place like that in China or
Yeah, everybody thinks like here that we have the hardest core prisons. We have the most prisoners, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
but not the hardest. I mean, when the worst thing that could happen to you is you might get butt fucked or something. That's
You know,
one thing. I mean, that's pretty fucking bad. And by the way, we could get into that too. I think that anybody getting raped in prison, there should be a guard. There should be somebody held responsible and charged for that man's rape. You know what I mean? There should be nobody ever getting raped in a prison where it's all about security. It's all about them being watched.
I think any assault, sexual or otherwise, that happens in there, the guards allow it. They basically
For sure.
they
For
green
sure.
light it. They green light it, and that's the only way it gets done. Only
So
way.
so we have to start holding these guards accountable.
Yeah.
We have to start holding the people accountable that are allowing this to happen. Because, you could be in fucking prison for a DUI and somebody just beat the fuck out of you and ass rape you, and you might get fucking AIDS. Now you got the fucking death penalty for a DUI where you just fucking blew too high on a breathalyzer, didn't even fucking hit a curb. This
I don't
is
want
the
to.
this is the fucking criminal system in the United States of America, Bach.
I don't want to get conspiratorial already, but
Yeah.
you ever hear about this guy named Osho? He was like a
Oh
Hindu.
yeah, I watch him all the time, man.
He was a guru, right?
He's got an Osho channel here. Also a great Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country.
He said they poisoned him. I don't know what it was, but he got locked up for like some visa violation. Like he overstayed some visa thing. So he had to do some time and then he got bailed out because the guy's rich, right? He said the mattress that he slept in is what gave him cancer because they radiated that mattress or something. And the guy, he doesn't need to lie at that age. He was already succumbing to like leukemia or he died from cancer, right? He said they they tampered with his mattress, the prison mattress. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think that's what they do for like public figures that they want to get rid of. It's so easy to just poison them
Yeah,
behind
I
bars.
feel two guys I'm very suspicious of their deaths are Arafat and Hugo
Oh,
Chavez.
oh yeah,
Both of those guys, because both of those guys came down with very aggressive cancers that just like ate them alive very quickly, you know? And
leukemia. Yeah,
very shortly after meeting U.S. dignitaries.
man. Speaking of, I should have had this open, but you hear how Hamas and the Israelis are doing prisoner exchanges right now, and
Yes.
there's like a ceasefire. That's why you're not hearing any developments in Gaza. That's why I haven't been making live. There's nothing fresh because there's a
Yeah, there should
ceasefire.
be. Well, I mean, hopefully that will stay in place. I mean, well, let's get back on track
Oh
if
yeah,
you don't mind,
yeah.
because
Let me make this point.
you had just moved with your mother, I think, or
Oh, yeah.
well,
Okay. Let
you
me
had
make
just
this point.
moved from Somalia to America. Okay, go ahead.
I'll make this point and then I'll give you my backstory.
Yeah, no problem.
During the Israeli-Palestinian exchange, there's clips. I should have had this open, man, on Twitter, where they have the Red Cross, who's like the mediator. He got caught on tape bugging one of the Hamas guys with like a tracker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, like, this world it's everything you see on video on camera is rigged. It's staged. It's a psyop. But
Mhm.
okay, now going back to your question, you're right. It was my family. My dad actually stayed behind. Um, uh, my dad actually went through a lot of hardship. He went through.
But your father wasn't even. Your father was Arabian, right? Or Saudi
Well,
Arabian.
no, he's Somali, but he was actually working in Saudi Arabia since the 70s. He
Oh,
worked in
okay.
Saudi Arabia had something called the oil boom in like 1973. So suddenly all these corporate uh, multinational companies started having hubs and headquarters in Riyadh and Jeddah and so on. So my dad was a young man at that time. That's when he moved, and basically his career was in Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
or he made his career in Saudi Arabia. That's where I was born. My most of my siblings too. So we moved to Canada before like the migrants.
Mm.
I was in Canada in like 1989. So I was a kid when I moved to Canada and didn't
What
speak English.
what side of Canada? West or
Okay,
east?
Ontario is basically like the California of maybe even more important to Canada than California is to the U.S. It's the center. It's in the Great Lakes, but it's the main hub of Canada. Most of the immigrants, you might say, are in the Golden Horseshoe area, which is Hamilton, Toronto, Windsor, and then the Peace Bridge, Detroit, on the other side. So that stretch of land is basically where 90% of the demographics in Ontario is located, and most of Canada is located in that area. And honestly, this chunk of Canada has more in common with upstate New York and Michigan than it does with like BC or the Maritimes or definitely Quebec is like then a whole different thing, and then Alberta and the prairies is a different thing.
But is it English primary or
Oh yeah,
French?
oh yeah, it's
Okay.
it's English. It's bilingual, but it's not demographically so. In Quebec, there are French Canadians, like French Canadians who don't speak English.
Did you watch Degrassi High?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did too.
It was a mind blow to see Drake basically go on a trajectory as he did because he
But-
was just a nobody from that show to us. And
Well, I watched it on PBS and here in the States. I don't think most people in the States watched it because they didn't watch PBS, but I
uh, I
I
didn't know it
did.
was on
But
PBS.
yeah, and it
Why
was
was PBS?
well, it was honestly it was too hardcore for the regular TV here,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and I think they just considered it kind of artsy or something at the time because this show dealt with like really adult topics.
Yeah,
Like they would have abortions and stuff back when they didn't do that shit on TV here.
yeah. I was like,
You know,
my school was nothing like that, man.
they were
I,
covering homosexuality,
yeah,
homosexual relationships in junior high school and stuff. And I'm like, it was like late '80s in
I
America, and
know.
I'm just like, what the fuck is this shit, man?
Yeah,
What's going on up in Canada?
I know the kids here. They're honestly, if anything, more naive than Americans. Like hockey was a big focus. I remember hockey was a big focus, and getting your gear before the hockey season and making sure you had the best and proper gear and stuff. And I was never good with skating, but I tried baseball, but uh, I became more into soccer. Kind of, kind of actually because of the neighborhood I was in. And then the '94 USA World Cup happening was kind of like got me into soccer. And then we went back to Saudi Arabia. So when uh, my formative years, I was actually back in Saudi Arabia, but I was going to like English schools. I wasn't speaking Arabic in Saudi Arabia. It's funny. I learned Arabic in my adult life. Uh,
Mm.
uh, Kind of like out of vanity, out of like feeling like I should, so that I should understand my religion better. But when I was in Saudi Arabia, I wasn't even interested in any of that.
How did you end up coming back to Canada?
We came back in 1999, and pretty uneventful. My dad was working in another city in Saudi Arabia, and oh, you might say 9/11 happened. I remember it affecting us in one way. My mom was taking driving classes, and I don't know if you remember, right when 9/11 happened, there was an anthrax scare for a bit. The
Yeah.
building she was in, there was a call. There was an anthrax call. And this was like a week after 9/11, and my mom called me, and I was in school, and I called the Toronto Star. I'm like, hey, there, there's a building. My mom's locked up, and there's people in there with hazmat suits, and they're saying it's full of anthrax. You should go in there, man. And the guy's like, hold on, let me grab my notes. And he was panicking, and that was my first interaction with a journalist or anything like that. It was mind blowing, but nothing really happened to me in my teens, like because I'm Muslim or my mom, because of her hijab, was getting a lot of harassment that year, or not even real harassment, more like people giving her the side eye and stuff like that, but not real harassment. nobody really associated us with, oh, Bin Laden, or anything like that. It was only, honestly, later, maybe in my 30s, you might say, and going to the US, I had problems with the Department of Homeland Security a few times, but they said it's because of someone having my name, being on their blacklist because of uh, wiring money back home. And basically, for a year, I had to fax my Canadian passport every time I'm wiring money or doing anything like that. They freeze. Western Union would freeze money orders I'd send for a whole year for 24 hours before they would get my ID. And this is like back in 2009. Well, yeah, it was actually my 20s. Yeah, in 2009, 2010 or so. So I wasn't really, all the people were complaining about discrimination. I never really experienced any of that.
So how did you end up getting into politics?
Honestly, I don't see myself as being like political. I'm more like a bookish type. Like I read a lot of books, and when I was growing up, first first thing I would do after coming from school was just read my encyclopedia set. I had a whole like shelf of books, so I would always occupy myself with reading and kind of like a photographic memory. I remember waking up my folks and telling them Diana died. We were in Saudi Arabia, so it was on CNN. I was always a night owl. It was like 4 a.m. in Saudi Arabia, and CNN breaking news: Diana's car crashed, and I was watching it alone in the living room. I remember running to my folks' bedroom and, hey, Princess Diana died. Princess Diana died. And my mom's like, man, you sure are like you should be a pundit. So yeah, maybe I was into news, you might say, but I won't say I'm political. I like to see. I want to see deeper than the politics.
Okay, well, it seems like your whole show seems to be about there is basically an international group has decided to end Israel
Okay, now
status as a country or whatever.
okay, now we're getting it to where I'm good. I can talk with my eyes closed without stuttering about this stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Around 2016 or so, a lot of cards basically were like cashed in. No more sustainability. This can't be sustained. The Anglo-American, like the way they were controlling the world nexus, it couldn't be sustained anymore. So Hillary Clinton was their status quo. When she was kicked off the script, you might say, and they put in Trump, that's when I clued in and I said, these guys are like scrambling. I noticed that things that were smooth were no longer smooth, and places that are canaries in the gold mine. What are places that are canaries in the gold mine? The Middle East. Before Israel, Lebanon, right? It hasn't dismantled yet, but in 2021, the first country I said will be dismantled or it's a failed project was Lebanon. And we saw this huge blast in Beirut back in the summer of 2020. Okay, so what was happening in Lebanon? Lebanon, 100 years ago, was created to basically be a French outpost to secure mutual interest for the French and the French minions in the area, the Maronite Christians, right? But over the century, the Maronites chose migrating to the US and Canada and so on, and basically leaving Lebanon. Lebanon became demographically more Muslim and specifically more Shia Muslim. That's how Hezbollah took control of Lebanon. Hezbollah wasn't supposed to control Lebanon. Lebanon was supposed to be a ethnic, multi-religious uh, uh, collaboration, right? But the Maronites, they basically say, we quit. Why did they quit? They had the civil war, the Lebanese civil war, and the 1990 peace deal basically secured everything for the Hezbollahis and the people with the guns, the guys who wanted to die and blow themselves up. The Christians, they just wanted to do business, and they didn't have suicide bombers, so they got blown out of Lebanon, literally, right? So that's when I realized, okay, on the ground, Lebanon is being dismantled. It's now literally a parking lot for Hezbollah. Israel is going to go through the same thing, but not as raw, right? What's happening in Israel? Israel saw where the wind was blowing in the U.S. You're American, no offense, but like the Israelis factored that it's lights out. The collaboration they had with the Anglo-American, the British created Israel, right? The mandate of Palestine and all that. The Israeli deep state were finessing things in a way that they wanted to use China as their factory for their Silicon Valley, but they were using American tech, American patents, American secrets, and giving it to the Chinese as a quid pro quo. Hey, China, we want to work for you. The Chinese like, prove it, and then they're like, okay, here's some secrets, right? A lot of the Americans in 2016 got wise to this, so they put in Trump. That's where the MAGA, Make America Great Again, came from, right? They got fed up with all these sabotaging minions. That's why Trump was talking about, hey, NATO, we need Canada to carry its weight. We need France to carry its weight in the military budget, right? Because the middle management in the U.S. deep state, they started noticing all these sabotage, all this duplicitous acts. And in Israel's case, it was so serious with their collaboration with Russia and the Chinese. The Americans said, man, we're going to lose this whole area, because if we lose Israel, we're losing the Suez Canal, we're losing the Gulf, we're losing all, and it's already happening, right? Saudi and Iran, under Chinese refereeing, made peace like over the summer. So the Americans said, before we lose any more, let's just dismantle this. Let's take this L. Worst case scenario, the smart rocket scientists and computer geeks in Tel Aviv, they'll just come back to New Jersey and Silicon Valley, right? Instead of them working against us, against our interests. So that's why they had the whole Netanyahu bullshit with the judicial, and Hamas took advantage of this moment, of course, with Russian advice. That's what my videos is trying to prove, because nobody's talking about this except me, little old me. Russia, basically, because of Iran being a little too much of a trying to play both sides, Russia is now in the region, in the Middle East. And also because the US is leaving the area, it's just a lot of vacuums, right? So Russia or Russian minions have been training Hamas, have been giving them all these hacks about Israeli tanks, the soft spots, where to hit them, and combine that with American Zionists realizing that there were Jews who were collaborating with the Chinese and so on against their own interests. I'm talking about people who own media. I know I'm being raw, but like media interests in the US, that's why you're seeing for the first time the algorithm be pro-Palestinian. That's why I'm not demonetized when I'm talking about the Rothschilds and stuff like that. It's because of Zionists allowing it, and the Zionists who control the media, right? And I call it the Jewish civil war. It's a Cold War, but
Well, they see that in China there are what 6 times, 7 times more people.
they have like manpower like you can't believe. But the thing about China is it, it
But
it's
if they
hype.
can turn them into consumers,
That's the goal, but it's hype because China is literally two countries, man. China is a strip of industrialized coastline, and then the countryside is all just rice farmers. These guys,
well, they're
they farm.
trying to, aren't they trying to turn the everything into like the mainland now?
Yeah, that's the Chinese goal. People like Peter Zahan, they're saying the the demographics is not allowing it. The Chinese aren't going to have enough replenishment numbers because they're not having babies for it to even trickle down to the countryside. By the time the money reaches, and it's actually it's already happening because if you look at the countryside, it's all 60-year-old grandparents. All the young people are living in bachelor apartments in Shanghai, and then working in like you know Chicoms, and then sending money home to their grandparents.
Well, I've always seen China as sort of an experiment of a coalition of countries that they trade with. I believe there's been, from the start of the trading with China, um, there have been agreements that they were going to conduct their government in a certain way to bring all this money to China, all these jobs to China.
Oh, yeah,
And when you look at the one child policy and you look at how they just are treated in general, we in the West are becoming more Chinese. You know what I mean?
100%, hundred
Because
percent.
they are, and the people will try to blame China, but in my
It's not.
opinion,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's not China's plan.
China is like Confucian or Taoism or Buddhist. That's like a Chinese
Well,
psyop.
pre Mao though.
Pre-Mao, yeah, exactly. Mao was trained in the West. His Maoist stuff is exactly what you're talking about. But go ahead, go ahead.
But well, people try to associate all that with modern day Chinese,
100%.
and the modern day Chinese have actually tried to erase that kind of stuff
Yep.
from their history. You know what I
They
mean?
call it.
Most of them have never even read that stuff or seen it.
They even have a name for it. They call it the Great Leap Forward. The Great Leap Forward was Mao-sponsored reset, and they want to do that in North America. And it's
Yeah.
like you said, it's not a Chinese thing. Mao was given tools and training, right? Like it's Marxist, but even Marx himself, like I don't think he came up with all the stuff they associate Marxism and communism. This is some 1,000+ year old science, man. I'm telling you, and they
My
use. Go ahead.
in my opinion, what they're using in China right now is just some sort of like blueprint a think tank thought up of how an actual world government should work.
Yep.
Because if you have the clashing of morals of the East and West, it's impossible to have an all-encompassing government, global government, but without having to each person having to give something up.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So to me, that's what it's all about. And I think it's very scary shit. I like to live my life as an individual. I appreciate individuals. I think those that think outside the box are the ones that lead innovation.
You know how they see like the elites, or I don't like using that term because they're not really elite. They're the the people who run things. They're generational wealth, and then they select minions to be their spokespeople, right? So
Right.
those guys get money or whatever, but they're not like cut from a better cloth from us or anything like that. Okay, so these guys, they see humanity the way they saw horses in 1900. Like, if you look at a horse, it's a beautiful creature, right, on its own. But these guys, they say, this is an obsolete creature, right? We could come up with a car, we could come up with a vehicle. The horse is obsolete. So 8 billion horses, we need to cut down their numbers, right? So they figure out different ways. I think that's the primary reason they do these resets. They think a lot of the people that they're resetting are useless eaters. Be- Keep in mind, the people China uh, uh, unalive during their Great Leap Forward, they were the landlords, they were the uh, intellectuals, they were the shaman priests, basically anyone with authority, anyone that the youth looked up to. Mao made the youth look down on them, and I think they can do that again. They can ease and they do that with the means like,
Well,
oh,
they're doing it
boomer,
right. It's already going on. I mean, with the whole boomer thing and
boomer,
all that.
yeah, yeah, the boomer meme. Uh,
Hmm.
they can easily, I can so see it. Maybe not with Zoomers, but the generation after, they can sick those kids at us when we're in our 50s and our 60s and old and feeble, and they want to confiscate whatever we are clinging on to. They can just sick our kids or grandkids. Like that's what they did in China and in Cambodia. Pol Pot, he basically anyone wearing glasses, they weaponized against people who wear glasses. They said these guys read in secret and they're reading anti-government literature, right? So they literally corralled people who have prescription glasses on. Firing squad. Look it up. I'm not making it up, man. So when they do resets, they go after the better quality people, not the low quality people. But then they mold the low quality people into whatever new reality generation they come up with. So I don't know, man. Sometimes I wonder if they made us talk on YouTube because they want to select, they want to listen in on what we got to say, and then when they heard enough, they zap us, right? I don't know. That's why I never went on BitChute or Odyssey. I hear Odyssey is closing down. I'm like, no, those are, they're all owned by Google and they're honeypots, in my opinion. That's just a
Oh yeah, I
paranoid.
think. Well, yeah, I think a lot of the porn sites
Oh yeah, yeah.
are just collecting data for the government
Compromise, yeah.
that most
Like
likely will be used, yeah, for blackmail purposes. You know, I mean, a lot of you guys don't realize when you're sitting there beating off to some fucking porn clip, you're getting recorded audio. They're hearing every little moan out of your mouth.
they say
They're
every
your phone on your on your cam. You know, I can't even find a monitor that they don't have a fucking monitor or a monitor that doesn't have a camera built into it already. You know what I mean? So, yeah, they've got. I mean, all that shit's being sold to third parties openly. All your information, everything, you can be using some kind of block thing. It doesn't matter. They get around that. That's look into what was that Operation Spectrum or what? Wide Spectrum or whatever the Edward Snowden thing, man. I
oh yeah,
mean,
yeah.
this
That
is like this is what they were doing years ago. Imagine what they're doing now. You know.
you know what my opinion is on Snowden? I think he's an actor. I think that was basically the way to initiate the masses.
That's very possible, but my thing, because if you look into him, he's got a really weird background. Like he's a high school dropout. He's got like some six-figure job with the
Just like
government within like in his early 20s.
yeah, it makes no
So
sense.
it's like,
Just
how
like
do you?
Bill Gates. Just like Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys that they put on like as a spokes. Okay, with him, I think it was just like kind of tauntingly, and then I think that's how they operate. They show you, but then because they're so conniving, they don't want to make it look like they're doing it. They have this guy put on the whistleblower trope. But if you look at him, he's like a dweeb. Why didn't they, have somebody, throw him off a balcony or snap his neck? It makes no sense based on the way the world works. A guy like Snowden escaping to, and then now he has Russian citizenship. It makes no sense. I think it's all just a script.
It doesn't matter if it was or not. I mean, that was
Yeah, true.
something to me. That was something everyone was saying. Everybody was going, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist if you think the government's recording everything you're saying and all this stuff."
Yeah.
Well, see, technically, it's not the government, right? It's all these corporations that have entered into an agreement where they don't have to pay fucking taxes and shit. That's why you see a lot of these companies, or like Amazon, doesn't have to pay taxes. It's like why? That's why, because they're in a government agreement, because they're giving them all this fucking shit that they can't collect themselves legally.
And then these corporations themselves, they're an arm of the government, man. Like,
Yeah, just like China.
just like China. Yeah. What you were saying earlier, I wanted to touch into that. They specifically chose China in the 60s. Nixon and Kissinger, the people running that camp, they were brainstorming. We need a place to really relocate our factories. Should it be India? Should it be Africa? Should it be China? And after a lot of factors, pros and cons, they chose China. And you can find a lot of the stuff on the Nixon tapes. Like Nixon had a real bad opinion of Indians and Indian people. I think uh, I think those tapes are also scripted. Like everything to me is like nothing's by accident. So I think that was kind of like explanation why they did not select India for their industrialization plans. They chose China way back in the 60s, and then they had Nixon do the ping pong diplomacy. And like you said, they basically advised the Chinese bureaucrats with the one child policy, right? It's not a Chinese thing, right? To
No,
just
it's
have a
like
one child. And now they're kind of, the same mentality because, another thing, these billionaires and the power elite types, they like going to the third world and seeing how people are used in the third world. Like they love
oh yeah.
they love how in India you can have a butler for for nothing, right? Or you could have six maids and a nanny for your brat, right? You can have a personal guy just washing your car. That's his whole job. He's your car washer. And they want to bring that to America. That's why they killed off the unions. They hate the fact that Americans are like, all middle, like we're unionized and we work 9 to 5, and we know our rights and we have guns and like that. Literally, the one reason they want to take guns from you guys is if you go to China, Indonesia, those places, the only person who has a gun is the district commissioner of the whole village. Is one guy who has a gun. He's in the police station. Nobody else has a gun except bad guy like some outlaw or some organized gang, right?
So let me ask you, what do you think about Trump?
Actor, 100% put in there by elements in the U.S. who woke up, panicked around 2015, 2016, and this is their last ditch effort. They're Zionist. They're part of the Zionist umbrella, but they're not globalist. They want. Okay, how do I put it?
I
They
mean,
they
Trump's definitely pro-Israel.
they're pro-Israel. They want the status quo, man. They want America to be where it was from 1965 to 1947 to 1999. No, 1947 to 2008. They want that status quo back outside America. They don't care about like America, like the American if he's homeless, right? And to be honest, the American philosophy was set up that way. You live by your grit, the libertarian mindset, and all that. They're talking about control, right? They don't like the Chinese and Russian pivot. collaboration in Eurasia, kicking them out of Afghanistan. Uh, they don't like Russia, uh, collaborating with European intel in Europe, kicking ass in Ukraine. So all these things put Trump in position. They said we need. I'm telling you, man, they could have easily chosen Vince McMahon back around that time. The cabal who chose or selected Trump, they just needed an all-American, charismatic P.T. Barnum character to rally populism. They needed, and you might call it fascism, right? But it wasn't really fascist because it was a global thing too, because it was happening in Turkey, it was happening in different ways. Saudi Arabia, MBS, he's that character. Whoever is advising Mohammed bin Salman, they're telling him to be like Trump or to follow the Trump script. Be bombastic, be hated by a whole segment of people. Don't give a fuck. Don't care about them hating you. Just go with a plan. MBS says Saudi Al Udma, Greater Saudi Arabia, right?
But why would Trump do this?
Because of the U.S. losing uh, the power nexus in the old world, in the Suez. Okay, these are roads. The world is a jungle. These roads are full of highway robbers. The U.S. guaranteed its goodies, right? Because the U.S. was all big and tough, and it could kick ass any guy who tried to rob its goodies or impose customs or act like the Somalian pirates or whatever. The U.S. could just impose its will, right? Now it can't. That's why you're talking about ceasefires and prisoner exchange. Israel lost, by the way. The moment they talked about prisoner exchange, they lost because they were going to go clear out Gaza, but they couldn't because the moment they went in, they were advised in the backroom channels, this is what's going to happen. 300 soldiers are going to die a day, and these guys have cousins who are, 6 degrees separated from a lobbyist in Washington D.C. And he's going to speak to a congressman, and he's going to fuck shit up over there, and it's just going to be bad optics. A week of that, that's 1,200 people. People are going to panic in Israel. If you want to evacuate 200,000 Gazans, 600,000 Israelis are going to evacuate. The ones who have dual passports, they're just going to go back to the U.S. and Canada and Britain. Because why would they stay in in turmoil, especially if they're professionals who make money? They're going to relocate business in a secure, safe area, right? So Israel lost, man, 100%. And the reason they lost is because they don't, the daddy, I don't want to sound like Iran. If you watch my videos, you can tell I don't like the Iranian position in the region. But Iran is right. They call America the great Satan, and then they call Israel the little Satan, right? It's not the other way around. So America, Trump was tasked with empowering America corporate and military and fusing. It's fascism. It's fascism. It is what it is. Fusing it as a last ditch effort to pivot the Gibbs back to where it was, because it's not here anymore. It's over in the east. If you go to a airport in Singapore and then compare it to JFK International Airport, it's clear as day, man. And pretty soon, the dollar, whatever's going to replace the dollar, that's when it's going to be realized. And Americans, people like Elisa, who have initiative, who want to make money, they'll go to China, because that's where the dollar or whatever replacing the dollar is. That's where it'll be. That's where the money will be. The new Manhattan or whatever, or the new Hollywood, it'll be somewhere over there. The new studios, the new NASA, space exploration studios, research, R&D, all of that would be in China, and or that's the plan.
But how so? The way they operate, they would have to force us to behave the same way because anyone in their right mind would rather live in a society like this than a Chinese society.
See, the guys who run these things, they prefer Chinese to America as a
Because they
basic
don't have,
stock.
they don't recognize human rights.
Bingo. Not only that, they resist less. They're less problematic in that sense. Americans are too argumentative. They have the Constitution. Uh, they have, like I
Yeah,
said, the
people
gun.
have rights, right?
They have
So like,
they
you
don't like
can't
all these
shred
things.
up cardboard and boil it in some oil and sell it to people as pork
Yeah,
for
exactly.
10 cents, you know. But you can do that in China, and they tell you that you're. Have you ever seen them getting the gutter oil?
No, you know, in China, all you do is you sign a waiver and you can sign away your organs, and that's what all the like fentanyl junkies and all the homeless people in China, when they're really down and out, they just basically go and sell a kidney. So yeah, they have no sense of humanity or whatsoever, and
Dude, these
that's what they like.
restaurants over there, when they dump their cooking oil, they dump it down into the sewers, and these people
Uh,
come out with like ladles, and they
uh,
dip the cooking oil up out of the sewage, and then they put it in bottles, and they sell it back to the restaurants.
I never eat in Chinatown. I never. I know it's not really Chinese restaurants, but I could
If you
just
go
see
down to
the.
Chinatown here, it's pretty authentic. And they put a basket of white rice on your table with a little paddle,
Uh,
and I would get some rice out for myself. And at one point, I think I took my fork and I just got some fucking rice right out of the fucking thing, right?
uh,
So then I see them come and they take the rice, the leftover rice, and they put it back into the giant thing of rice, right? Like for other people.
leftover.
Yeah, it was like fucked up, and they had like little kids in there drinking beer,
Yeah, I noticed they have.
like 5-year-olds drinking beer and shit, and like no one even gave a fuck.
I saw this on YouTube. I don't know if it was real. It could not be real, man. But it looked real. But these things could be faked. There was a baby that was run over on a street, a busy street, and then other cars just ran over it too because nobody cared. People walked over the like human roadkill. A baby that was crawling and then it got hit, and then nobody cared about it. Other cars hit it, and man, like that's what they like. They want to bring favelas, and I think they already brought favelas because if you go to San Francisco, you see the tent cities in San Francisco where they have all the tech companies are in Silicon Valley, right? And that's where they have all these homeless encampments. Where did they get inspired? They went to Rio, they went to Shanghai, they went to Mumbai, and they saw the shanty towns, and they saw the Indian billionaires, the Brazilian billionaires live in like palaces, and they said, you know what, I'm gonna live like that, and that's what's happening in San Francisco. It's literally turning into Mumbai and Rio. Like soon they're gonna have walled like favelas, and then
Oh,
like
except when the leader of China comes to visit. Did you
oh
see how
yeah,
they cleaned it up for him?
that's yeah, they just completely wiped like
Yeah, one day all that's gone.
sanitized. It's like nobody's there now.
They can't figure out how to figure. They can't figure out what to do, but the China guy comes and it's just all gone in one day.
it's it's how bureaucrats work. They love impressing other bureaucrats, and they have the same mindset. And I was telling this to this guy, a billionaire in Texas has more in common with a billionaire in China. He will marry his daughter to a billionaire in China than to someone you know or someone I know, right? It's a new class, right? So
Well, it's a strange class when you're in a communist country.
yeah, it's such a script, man. They tell everyone it's like it's for the worker, and
I saw an article one time and it said China's communism is creating the most new millionaires or something. And I'm and I'm like, communism is not. You know how they do that shit? How they
yeah,
fuck with the titles and shit.
yeah, psyops,
But
social engineering with the words.
and yeah, I see people trying to learn Chinese. They think that's where it's all headed. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think I don't want to sound like a doomer, but I see a war, like a global war, and it must be started by the U.S. They need this
I
war.
see a dual war. This is what I see. I see there being like this scripted out, fake. We're going to have a new society, a world government coming out of this war taking place.
Yep.
And then I see like probably 40, 50 individual civil wars going on simultaneously that are going to be very much real.
Like
And
just like
can't be scripted, and nobody's going to know what the fuck's going on, man. I mean, it's going to be like brother against brother,
oh
just
yeah.
like brutal, but worldwide.
And then the rise of the warlord and like all these like one thing I realized about human nature when it comes to uh, civil strife, it's so easy to just pump money and guns, and then people who look the same and have the same culture would blow, like that thing can fall apart. And the thing that prevents it from happening happening tomorrow, November 27th, I think is agreements in back rooms. Like they agree. Like in the US alone, there are 300 armed militias, man. Like people who are like part of these militias. And what's stopping them from going at it? And the Antifa versus the Trump people and all that is they meet up in the back rooms and they're like, look, man, give us this and we'll give you that. Give us that and we'll give you this. But there will come a time when they can't even see face to face in the back rooms, and I think that's when it'll be a hot war. And honestly, I don't like giving a date, but I think we're closing in on it, man. Like I was telling some of my people on the OP forum, 2025 sounds reasonable because there was this one website, it got scrubbed off. It was called Beagle.com, and it kept mentioning the population projection and GDP per capita for the year 2025, and it said the U.S. will have like 99 million people.
Yeah, that is true.
It was like a respectable looking website.
I remember when that came out.
Yeah, if you look for Beagle.com now, it's completely scrubbed. It's only people coding it and saying, "Hey, they scrubbed it off the net." Right? And you'd have to use the Wayback Machine to find the actual stats and everything. I have it saved in a PDF.
Oh, you could look it up for a long time, and you could see exactly. It's just like dog food, right?
Mm.
That's made out of like euthanized animals and roadkill.
Holy shit! Yeah, like what was that movie Soylent Green, as they call it?
Yeah. So if you look on the side of if you look at the ingredients in dog food and cat food, you'll find something called animal protein.
Ah.
Now, animal protein is something they make. They buy the euthanized dogs and cats from the Humane Society, or at least they did back in the day. See, it's hard to find. They used to be very proud of what they did back in the day. You can find all kinds of websites about it, but once it started getting passed around, they started taking all this shit down.
Yeah.
But you'll still see this ingredient, animal protein, in the and it's usually the main ingredient. That's why every once in a while you'll see that a bunch of dogs will die from like some kind of poisoned dog food.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because the euthanization drug got into the meat. Because
Okay, yeah.
what they do is they take these animals and they put them into a big machine, and it strains out all that euthanization drug and everything, and they put rotten like roadkill, whatever they can find in there,
I bet you
and they
now they're gonna
make
put insects.
these cubes of meat. Dude, I bet you there's fucking human beings that eat that shit. Don't
Oh
even know what the fuck it is.
man.
There's definitely people that eat dog food, man.
Ugh.
So, but yeah, you used to could like go there on their website. They were very proud of what they were doing because it was like it was one of those things where these like green people, it's like a big circle of life, Oh, this used to be just total toxic garbage. Now we can just like, feed it back to the animals, which is how you got mad cow disease, everything else,
Oh right, yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, I was a kid when that happened, but
Yeah.
it's funny how that just died down all of a sudden too.
Well, my theory on that is there's an explosion in Alzheimer's. I have nothing to prove this. This is just my theory, totally, okay?
Yeah.
But there's been an explosion of Alzheimer's every single fucking year since the 80s.
You're
And this mad cow disease, it takes like 25, 30 years to set in because your brainstem's so slowly liquefying. So you don't really have you don't really know until one day you wake up and you're just not even able to do anything. You're just kind of all fucked up, shaken,
no,
you can't
yeah, no
think.
coordination, nothing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they had a projection of like the Alzheimer's rate going up. I forget what it was, but if you did the math on it, it exceeded the U.S. population, and within the next 20 years. So, from my point of view, it was kind of fucking forecasting every single person was going to have Alzheimer's. And the scary thing about mad cow disease and the way we were eating food back in the day, and even today, is you could have one mad cow brain thrown into the hamburger pile. And you could have upwards of like thousands of McDonald's hamburgers could have minuscule pieces of this mad cow brain in it. So literally thousands of people are getting infected off one mad cow
Ugh.
from how we do the Franken foods and the fucking churn it out corporate shit here, you know.
The mass distributing and all that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm convinced all of the drug resistant staff has came from big pharma.
Yeah.
Because what they've done is it costs money to have to keep clean cages for these animals. So they'll let them sit there and like just live in their shit and piss, go around and hit them up with some antibiotics every day to keep them alive.
Man,
And that's where all these drug resistant strains, that's why people cut themselves when they're cooking meat and shit. The next thing they know, they're in the hospital with a staph infection that can't be fucking treated, and they'll usually go, "Oh, you probably got it from the hospital or whatever,"
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
No, it's coming from Big Farm, and they had there was a Los Angeles Times article back maybe 12, 13 years ago, and this beef industry is nobody to fuck with, by the way. I don't know if you've ever looked at them versus Oprah.
No, no.
She had come out and said she was never going to eat a hamburger again, and they almost ruined her ass.
Yeah,
There are no way to fuck
powerful.
with. So let's just say all this is allegedly, but I do remember there's a Los Angeles Times article, and if you find a link to that article now, it goes to a statement from the beef industry because they won some kind of lawsuit.
Oh.
But basically, they went and got 10 cuts of beef, or I don't even think it was just beef, it was just meat in general.
Okay.
Very expensive to the very cheapest. And they have tested for the drug resistant staph. All 10 of them had it.
Oh man. So it didn't matter the quality of the meat.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's in the same cooler with the cheaper stuff,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's
it
the
just
area
gets all over, yeah. So I mean, and they figure, oh, you're just going to cook this anyway; it's going to kill it. So why bother, We can sell it cheaper, make some more money. They never really sell it cheaper. The prices always still go up. They're just making more money for themselves. This whole idea that somehow dude, the amounts of profit taken from these corporations
it's ridiculous.
is obscene.
I don't know. I was
Should
gonna
be
ask you,
illegal.
have you been noticing food expiring more in the last year? where I get my groceries, man, maybe every third grocery trip, I find something. When I look back at the cupboard, it's bad. What the? And it was never the case. But now, especially with dairy products, I'm finding a lot of expired milk. I had to get rid of this whole. And over here, they come in bags. There's $8 bag, completely undrinkable, completely bad. It went bad. So I
Well,
had
I
to
do know they are starting to take some chemicals out of some preservatives off the market that they used to use, you know. I mean, some of this stuff's being found to have severe impact, especially the bovine hormone,
yeah.
you know, which makes these cows giant and it makes them produce a lot more milk. Also makes you have fucking titties when you're fucking like 7.
Yeah, it's that they
You go
use it
through
to beef
puberty
them up.
at like 7,
Yeah, literally
you
beef
know,
them up. Yeah.
and you don't think, I mean, okay, maybe you go through puberty at a young age, but you don't think that doesn't fuck up your health in any fucking way the rest of your fucking life that you went through puberty at that fucking young, you know? But no, they
Well,
act like, oh, it's evolution. It's just happening, you know? Or like, well, no, man. We are getting bombarded with chemicals. I feel like in the future, they're going to look back at this time as a very barbaric time. Just as barbaric as when we look at them doing the lobotomy.
oh yeah, yeah. We now laugh at that kind of stuff as pseudoscience.
Well,
But
not really, because now they're trying to bring it back. They're literally starting to talk about bringing
are
lobotomies
you
back.
serious?
They've already brought back electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
Princess Leia was getting her ass electroshocked.
Was it?
She ended up having a heart attack and dying on a fucking plane. But you can look it up. She was bragging about how she was getting electroshocked. I mean, she was like so close to dying from a cardiac event, and they were giving her electroshock therapy. Nobody fucking brings this up, says anything, but whatever.
And then you have
Um,
the what's her name, Britney Spears, acting like she can't take care of herself, so they're gonna give like her parents power of attorney. I think there's psyop in that too. Like they wanna make
well,
people.
I don't think Brittany can take care of herself, to be honest.
Oh no, no, man.
I think she's not. I think she's. I think she's. I mean, honestly, I don't want to predict bad things for people,
Oh no.
but I think she's definitely something bad's going to happen with her, without anybody that actually cares about her family, because she seems to be around a lot of yes people, like fans and stuff, which maybe care about her, you know, but they're not going to fucking ever say no to her, tell her not to do something like her family would. They care about her on that level, you know. They don't want her to destroy herself or anything else. I think she's. I mean, it's not easy to get that on somebody of her status and wealth. You know what I mean? So I figure they must have some pretty good fucking evidence. If you look into it, dude, there's a lot of fucked up shit about her. Like she ran off with, like, she went and visited Louisiana, and
Okay, yeah.
she found like some kid she had a crush on in middle school, and like flew him to Vegas and got married to him.
Was that K Federline or something?
No, this was before K-Fed.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
can you imagine that? Like you went to middle school with Britney Spears, then she moved off somewhere and became a big star. Then she comes to visit, she flies you out to Vegas and marries you.
Has going to be a kind of a mind, you know,
Yeah, and then
mind.
her family got an annulment, and yeah, that guy was recently he was stalking her or something. He was recently arrested for trying to contact her or something.
You almost kind of feel bad for him because if she hadn't, messed with him, he might have,
Right.
he might have just minded his own business. It's not stalk no one.
Well, she was doing some really crazy shit. I mean, she hooked up with that dancer who was already in a relationship with a public black actress.
Wow.
Sure, I think her name was Cherie Jackson. She was on a sitcom, and she got knocked up by him. Had a couple kids. I read some reports of her hooking up with just random dudes on the beach.
Yeah, she turned into like a nympho for a bit, right? But that wasn't her original
I
nature. It was
mean,
just
what I heard was they found her at some like a bunch of skateboarders in Venice at her, like up in some apartment, like she ran away from home, basically. You know, and met these like
uh,
random druggy skateboarder fucking dudes in Venice, and they were just like turning her out in this fucking apartment. That's what I read. That's what I heard.
man, poor
So
poor Britney.
they had some private eye track her down, and they fucking like kidnapped her back from the fucking skateboarders.
Man,
But that's just shit you hear. You don't know if it's true or not.
and she was so put together and like such a star when I was growing up. Like, man,
Mm. Yeah, I just know when I saw her get literally get wheeled out of her mansion on in a straitjacket,
yeah,
I was like, yeah, this bitch has lost it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
she,
So, and I think honestly, I think there's a reason. I mean, I went out to Vegas when she was doing shows out there, and I almost went because I was hearing reports that she would just start like talking about really fucked up shit, like right during the concert.
oh really?
Like she
Oh,
didn't give two shits. She was having to churn out like 2, 3 shows a day at some fucking at some
man,
fucking casino.
yeah. Some of these, like, I feel bad for them, man. Like,
Well,
w-
don't she was making buku cash. I mean,
yeah, but at the expense of her peace of mind, permanent peace of mind. Like you're seeing what's happening with Will Smith right now. I think in
well,
five, 10 years.
the residency should be because now you got your fans coming to you, and yeah, you might do 3 shows a day,
Yeah,
but you don't have any of that traveling. You don't have any of that fucking shit. It's like you go to work for 8 hours and come home. You know, you did 3 shows during that 8 hours. You know, I don't think it's a bad gig for somebody like her because she is unstable. She can't be out there traveling around and stuff like that. You know what I mean? She just
you're
really
right. Yeah,
can't.
yeah. She's too much of a loose cannon for that kind of like structure.
Yeah. I don't even know why she wants to be naked on Instagram so bad.
Yeah, honestly,
Like why don't you sell that to Hustler or something if you know make some money off of it if you
I think maybe she's like, I'm finally, I'm in control of my nudity. Maybe she wasn't in control. She was
yeah. But
like,
believe me, I can pull my dick out at any time. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Nothing's stopping me. But I don't do it because it's like it don't even occur to me to do that. Why is it so important to her?
these
There's so many
they're
women that seems to be important to, you know.
oh no, I don't consider like Britney Spears as on the same level as these other, OnlyFan attention whores and just the Instagram hoes and just the normal woman who thinks it's just okay to objectify herself. No, I I think with people on her level, they feel their body were commoditized so much when they were making tons of money, like managers telling them, "Oh, you can't gain weight, you can't do this, you can't do that." That now that they're out of the spotlight, they're like, "I want to be nude. It's on my terms." I think that's you know a rationalization, but you know the way they make just the regular average Jane follow this mindset. Like I could go into the Kim Kardashian stuff. The stuff I think about all that is like I don't even know if it's even allowed on YouTube, man. Like I don't think like I honestly believe in witchcraft and black magic, and they actively do it. I don't think Britney does it. She might be a victim of it, if anything. Like she looks like somebody who is under a spell, like somebody the classic in Islamic like demonology exorcism. She exhibits the signs of being
She
under
got
a
a
spell.
gin.
Yeah, she got exactly that. She's possessed by jinn or something like that. like uh, I don't know, man. Like it's one thing for stars, I might say, but just a person off the street. Uh,
I would say most celebrities are possessed by gins.
they there's a whole thing about Aleister Crowley and Hollywood. They say the wood holly. was what magic wands were made from. Like magic wands were a real thing that they used to use. Just it's in the Bible. The pharaoh's magicians, they all had wands, right? And
Well, they
and they,
consider what they do magic because they're bringing to life, you know, a story or whatever, you know.
oh no, no, they were practicing the dark arts, quote unquote, the dark arts, according to the Bible and the Quran. And the Quran says this all came from Babylon, like, and it was revealed to humanity as a
It's like
test.
Marduk.
uh, it was two angels, Harut and Marut. That's the names the Quran gives them. Marduk might be from those names.
Yeah, it's
The
probably that second one there, Maruk or
Harut, yeah,
whatever.
Marut, yeah. There's no coincidences. That's another thing. Uh,
Yeah.
if you're multilingual and you listen to a lot of words, even words that are supposedly not supposed to have any connection, sometimes sound alike, like in English and Arabic, and you're like, what the fuck?
Okay, so let's get into your spirituality.
Okay,
So you are Muslim.
yes, I'm Muslim, yeah.
So I guess you just basically you have those beliefs in general, right? So
There was a time, let's say in my 20s, where I wasn't a practicing Muslim. Um, basically didn't respect any of the commandments. Um, would order pepperoni pizza, like nothing, like would, but literally, I saw the tangible benefits of living a Muslim life. And even when I wasn't a practicing Muslim, I was always, I always believed in a creator. I always knew there was a supreme being, something or someone must have created all this. Like the atheist explanation never made sense to me, right? And the beauty of nature, mountains, lakes, you know, to me it's just clear as day that there's an art, someone who's trying to show you. He's like, look, ain't like can this ain't normal, man. You can't do this, right? This is no accident. And I think the people who push the atheism stuff, I think they knew, but I think they just wanted to mislead the masses. Like, if you look at the writings of Isaac Newton and all the Enlightenment scientists, it was maybe 60% religious, 40% uh, practical science. Like, it was more Bible study and interpreting a passage in the Bible, and then you'll have something about uh, theory, thermodynamics, like a mathematical formula. But most of his writings was religious. So I was in my heart knew that the top people they had to be religious, and they had access to things we don't.
yeah, I'm basically Christian. You know, that's the philosophy I live my life by. That's where my morals come from, basically. You know, it comes from growing up in a Christian country, pretty much. I mean, I'm not someone that's ever really went to church regularly.
Same with me and Islam. Yep.
I've been to a lot of different types of churches. You know, uh, um, I like to go have tea with Buddhist monks every once in a while, and
Did I ever meet a Buddhist monk? No, I don't think I ever met one.
I've been to a mosque before, and I went there a few times. I attended the mosque, but it was as a child,
Oh,
and I was part of something where I had to go to the mosque, and they sent some kids over to the church.
it's like an interfaith, like exchange, kind of like
Yeah, they were like,
learning about different. I had something like that in
because
school
we
too.
both, because you know that what they're teaching us is we have the same overall God.
Yeah.
You know, it's like differences of what the Messiah is, and as long as you at least believe in the Supreme, you know, which is oh, what is his name? He doesn't have a name, but
In Islam, Allah.
oh no, who's the guy that was talking to him? The only guy that ever talked to him?
Oh, Buddha.
Abraham.
Oh, Abraham. Oh, okay.
So
Abraham.
we're both,
Yeah.
you know,
You're talking about the
Abraham,
Abraham. Yeah.
Abrahamic
Christian,
religions, you know.
Judaism, and
So
Islam. Yeah.
yeah, so we all share that, you know. So it's like one of these things where you know they were just trying to. They taught me to write my name in Arabic,
Oh, nice. I could do that for you too.
and I remember they told me that they believed that Jesus was a prophet
Yep.
and stuff
And
like
that
that.
his mom was a virgin. He was born miraculously, virgin birth, and that he
Yeah,
will return. We all believe that.
and it's really weird how little. I don't know how much Muslims know about the Christian religion,
Very little. I have a
but I
funny
know
story.
that the Christians. I mean, you might as well just be like worshiping some crazy ass thing. I don't think they realize that Islam is just basically Christianity and Judaism, you know, but with its own tinge.
Yeah, it's just like
You know,
this is
you got Jesus and you got Muhammad, and then you have nothing. I guess nothing up here in the yet in the Judaism realm.
honestly, yeah, yeah. Well, when I looked at Judaism before my study into it, I was like, I had a cousin, and he told me this funny story, and he's like, "Hey, when Jews die, you know what happens to them?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "They get cremated, and then they listen to the to the burning corpse. If they hear a pop, he goes to heaven. Like if the corpse pops while it's burning, like if it makes a pop sound, he goes to heaven. But if it fizzles out and there's no pop sound, if it just goes fizz and you see the body just fizzle, he goes to hell. And I believe that. And then when I was a child, by the way, but it was my cousin, and he was basically trolling me. But when I looked into Judaism, I'm like, man, this is exactly, well, not exactly, but almost Islam. This is
You
almost like
got you
Islam.
got y'all have like halal, and they have
Yeah, they have kosher.
kosher.
Yeah, I think theirs is
Yeah,
more strict. If anything, theirs is more strict than halal
yeah.
because they can't mix dairy and cheese, right? Right?
Oh, I'm not sure. They can't do a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. With us, it's like no pork, no blood, no roadkill. What else? And that's it. And nothing killed in a name other than like in a blasphemous name, like something, sacrificed in the name of Moloch. We can't eat
Yeah.
that. But like kosher, it's there's shellfish you can eat, and different kinds of seafood you can eat.
Oh,
Don't quote me
okay.
on that. Yeah, and I know they can't mix certain like meat and dairy. They can't mix in the same meal.
I went to a halal meat market one time, and I saw like a lamb get slaughtered in a window,
Oh,
and it was kind of traumatizing to me.
I saw one in Tanzania gets a goat actually. Goat gets slaughtered in.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
what
So
did you see?
you don't have you don't require that type of meat, or do you have somebody that does that for you, or
No,
because it
okay.
seemed like it was a bunch of ladies with tickets,
Oh, that's
and
so.
they're standing around, man, and they bring there's like a window, and they bring
Yeah,
this lamb in there, and I'm in there like I'm looking at like breath mints and shit, you know, because I just had a shawarma
yeah.
across the street, so I go in there to check this place out.
That's a legit like a halal, like dhabah place. They do
Yeah.
slaughters. It's like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, the dude comes in with the executioner hood on. He's got like a black hood on, like you can't see his face. And he slits this lamb's throat, and he leaves the room, and this lamb is ramming itself against the window. And then he comes back in, and the lamb's still alive. He starts cutting its fucking leg off, and he's handing it through a hole in the glass to some lady who has a ticket. It seemed like they maybe bought the pieces ahead of time or something. I don't know.
I can't stop laughing, man, because you're so right. What you saw was it was for Eid. It was 100%. It was
They
for
were
the
like going yee 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 yee.
yeah.
The ladies were, you know what I mean? They were making this noise like yee yee yee, yee.
Oh
And
yeah,
they had these tickets.
they were ululating. That's like la, 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 la.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a celebrating thing. Like when you're celebrating, you make that
Do you
noise
have to do that during the process?
for
You
any
just
celebrating weddings.
okay.
Your son graduates and you have your whole family. They do it, right?
Yeah.
It's just a thing. But that I bet you it was during the end of Ramadan.
Okay.
It was the end of the Ramadan. They picked that lamb. They were gonna sacrifice him and then distribute the meat the to the people, right? Uh, when I was in Tanzania, I saw them sacrifice a goat. The the funny thing is when they cut off the jugular, I didn't know there's I don't know if it's for it has to be for all herbivores, but they have two kinds of fluid. They have blood from the jugular, and then green gooey stuff
Oh
from
man.
their I guess their esophagus, right? From their
Hmm.
stomach. But the blood was coming off from their neck, and then the green stuff. I guess it was the cud. You
Oh my
chewing the
God, I
cud.
couldn't even imagine that.
Yeah, the green stuff was oozing from one puddle of green ooze and one puddle of red ooze. And just like you said, um, the lamb was still alive. He wasn't ramming anything, but the hoofs was like
Yeah.
moving, all over the place. So
Yeah, it was
we saw
great.
that, and then we ate the little guy same day. We had a whole yeah. They had the 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 pit roast and everything. It was really
I've
good.
only ever had a chicken killed the same day, I think, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
Something about a fresh killed animal is like fantastic after it hasn't been sitting for weeks before you eat it. You know what I mean?
Like yeah, frozen meat is different, man.
I
Frozen.
would I would say frozen meat is as different as regular meat is to fresh killed meat. I mean
Yeah,
that fresh killed meat is like fantastic.
yeah. It's like the flavors embedded. You don't need to. You just need
Oh
salt
yeah.
to bring out the flavor. It was 1993, and I still remember when I saw that. and it was an Eid in Tanzania.
Mm.
Eid is like our Christmas.
Okay. I want to thank you for calling me today. We've been going on here for about an hour 30. I don't think
Finally,
we
yeah, man.
really I don't even think we've really got into a lot of stuff yet. Maybe we could do this again sometime if you want to. I
Oh
enjoyed the
yeah.
conversation. So, Boq, is there anything that you're going to be doing in the future you want to talk about or you want to plug or?
Okay, just my channel, Boq Precision. It's basically if you want a deep dive analysis into what you see in the news, historical events, history in general, human human nature, psyops, who benefits, cui bono. My channel is the channel to go to.
All right, and you can find that in the description. All right, Boq, thanks again. You have a good night.
Thank you, Grady. I was gonna call you George almost.
Oh, no. Grady.
Grady.
Bye bye.